Welcome to another Endeavor to Connect episode. I'm your host, Steve Baskis, and today we have a special guest on the show, Lonnie Bedwell. Lonnie Bedwell is a blind veteran. He's an adventurer and an explorer, but he's also a motivational speaker, and he's inspired countless people through his journey of resilience and exploration. He's climbed tall mountains around the world and kayaked raging rivers, such as the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. But today, I want to talk to him about his process of exploring, about pushing boundaries, and living a full life despite his loss of eyesight. So, Lonnie, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thanks for having a little podcast, man.
Yeah, it's a new podcast, and we want to highlight what you're doing because we're helping you. We're helping you in this whole process of doing the Grand Slam, right? That's what it's called.
Yes, the Explorers Grand Slam is what it's called, and that's our goal. And the Explorers Grand Slam is to climb the highest peak on all 7 continents and then to ski or trek to both the North and South Pole.
It's an amazing, an epic journey, to say the least. Having climbed on some of the 7 summits myself, it's I understand the arduous journey from the perspective of a blind individual, and like I mentioned just a moment ago, I wanted to talk about the process of your exploration and your adventuring. When did it start? Like, when did all of this begin?
Well, for me, to take it way back, for me to get started in adaptive sports or adventures to begin with was when the first time I went to the Hines Blind Rehab Center up in Chicago, Illinois. And they simply asked me up there if I would like to try snow skiing. And they said they know blind people snow ski, but they'd never done it there as a recreational outing. And they were looking for something to do for the younger vets coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And I said, twist my arm, and that's how it began. And then as far as mountaineering stuff goes, gee, you know as well as I do where that started. It was you and I that was asked by the Adaptive Sports Center out in Crested Butte, Colorado, and by an organization run by our good buddy Kyle Thomas. It was called Piece of Adventure. It unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. But they asked us and said, "Hey, we'd like to see if we can get blind people to the top of a 14,000 foot peak out here." And we went.
I remember we climbed Humboldt together.
Yeah. I remember it very well. I lost both my big toenails.
Footwear is so important to have good footwear, and but that was an amazing experience, and absolutely, these adaptive programs across the country are a big part of allowing people like ourselves, as well as civilians, the ability to be introduced to adaptive sports or recreation, mostly because there are people that are trained to work with the disabilities like blindness or visual impairments or whatever it may be, an amputation or paraplegic, and it is remarkable to have, of course, friends, dedicated friends that you network with over time while pursuing these kinds of adventures, who can help you in a kind of a different setting. So I know some of the story. You've told your story a bunch of times, and I know you got into kayaking. Kind of, you were in Colorado too, as well, right? In a swimming pool doing stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but
no, you're right. Mm-hmm.
And Team River Runner is a great organization that gets people butts in boats, as they like to say, and they exist across the country. All these groups, would you say that when you go and do things with these people, you meet other people, of course, that love the experience of kayaking or climbing, and you build a relationship, and that might lead you to an opportunity that is outside of these organized adaptive programs. Is that accurate to say?
Oh, absolutely accurate to say. Like you brought up the kayaking, the executive director, Joe Mornini, simply asked me, so how would you like to be the first blind veteran to kayak the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon? Just like, wow. And so that's how that came about. And, the Adaptive Sports Center there in Crested Butte, Colorado, another great, great program that me and you've been to several times. And, and they literally have helped let us start what we call the BASH program, Blind Adaptive Sports Heroes, to where, they do 3 different events a year, from snow skiing to, winter or to climbing, hiking event, all of them. Yeah.
I think, is this, your journey of pursuing these kinds of events, has your mindset changed? Like, were there things driving you to do it early on? Like, oh, I've never done this. I'd love to try to experience this, push myself, push my own mind and body. Or was it something like, you feed off what I kind of feed off? People are definitely inspired and driven, especially the ones that join us on the trips. I think when they witness, us go through a rapid with our systems and techniques, or when we're climbing along a cliff, band or a ridge on a mountain, people are definitely, they're thinking more deeply about the process. What was driving you initially, would you say?
It's both. To your point, it's both. But distinctly, like I said, we want to see if we can do that here as an outing at the Pines Blind Rehab Center. Twist my arm. And you developing, your nonprofit Blind Endeavors, which, like you said, is graciously helping us with pulling sponsorship together to do these adventures. But we want to show what's possible out there. Sure, we kind of push ourselves to see what we can do on our own. There's no question about that, and a lot of times enjoy it. Personally, I don't. Mountaineering is my probably least favorite of the things I do. I like the kayaking and the rock climbing, but I never thought I could be in these places. Like I said, I do push myself on that aspect, but it truly is more so to show people what's possible. And I know you have that mindset. That's why you created your nonprofit. And it's important that we do that, I think. And it's, to me, and I think I can speak on your behalf as well as mine, that it's another way for us to continue to serve. We joined the military for a purpose, for a reason, and it's just another way to continue to serve. And I think in both of our cases now, we can hopefully open doors for other people that are struggling like we did and have.
I agree, man. No, absolutely. I remember, and I can kind of relate to your statement on not enjoying maybe one particular activity or recreation or sport over another. And I mean, that's human. We don't necessarily like everything. It's funny, mountaineering has been one of my favorite things of all the things I've tried, and I know, just like yourself, I've tried everything from sailing to kayaking to doing triathlons and marathons and these mountaineering, style expeditions, as well as kayaking, whitewater. And, I never thought I'd be interested in kayaking whitewater. I remember when you first started doing it, I was kind of on the fence about it. Not disinterested, just, I I was worried about my hand injury. There's so many
Mm.
types of disabilities, and I was like, man, the paddle is like your tool, when you're kayaking. But you inspired me, just like we're talking about inspiring others who may already have a drive to go and try. Because Kevin Carr from Creating Ability, I worked with him, had many conversations, and we developed an assistive device that at the point at which I was already proficient at kayaking through different kinds of whitewater. But this assistive device that we created gave me the ability to confidently say, yeah, I'll kayak the Grand Canyon, the Colorado River with Lonnie and the group that we did
Mhm.
it with. And it's these kinds of little things, innovations, I think, that drive me to be involved with the community, and the research, the thought process about techniques or systems. You could probably elaborate on using radios on the water over, using just verbal communication. What's that experience been like? I think that's been really cool for me to witness, is the innovation of humans, and drive to give us the opportunity, either be our guides or help us with building tools or systems to allow us the ability to accomplish these great things.
Well, it's it's just awesome, to think of that. And what gets me too, in a lot of aspects, it's not that difficult. A lot of times people think it's got to be some outrageous thing, invention to allow us to do this, and it's not necessarily. It's which I think is cool. It's just finding a way to use something that's already out there. But then again, to your point, to a lot of ways, these sockets, these prosthetic legs, these prosthetic, the skis, the bi-skis, the mono skis, the way the adaptivity in the kayaks. I distinctly remember kayaking the Wabash River here in Indiana with an incomplete quadriplegic. And to your point, Kevin Carr come up with a thing where the paddle stroke, the movement of the arms of that participant was about a 3 or 4 inch stroke right in front of their chest, but the paddles made a full, complete sweep. And we put outriggers on that so they could do it, and just to be a part of all this, and like, let's find a way to
To make it
possible.
happen.
Make it happen, instead of no, you can't. Okay.
Well, it's like the white cane, the long white cane.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty rudimentary, simple system that works extremely well. And then, when we climb or more importantly, mountaineer, where we're hiking to places where we might climb, do more technical climbing, we use a trekking pole. I mean, these are pretty rudimentary, simplistic tools, but they're very effective at helping us if used, in a certain way. And, and yeah, we could, who knows what the future holds, in the sense of machine vision and technology that is interpreting what's right in front of us real time and providing that to us through some sort of output, whether it's tactile, haptic feedback, or whatever. I'm a techie guy, but I do love the simplistic concept of using a tool like a trekking pole or a cane. I think, as you've probably learned over your experience of doing these different types of wild expeditions far in the backcountry, very, very distant from civilization, you need to be simplistic, because batteries, things just don't work, or they're destroyed by the excessive use or the weather, the environment that we're in. So I absolutely understand what you're saying. Lonnie, I mean, community, the community thing is so important to me. And I think even if people don't do like extreme adventurous things, just getting out and moving, you know, is so
Moving is
important.
living, right, buddy? Moving is living. That's your
Yeah,
motto.
exactly. Moving is living. I think when you lose your eyesight or some sort of, whatever, piece of you that prevents you maybe from doing something physically, or at least in that moment you feel limited, moving and getting back out and finding a way to live life again is so imperative for someone's confidence and mental strength and journey in life. And so I bet you, what do you have to say to that kind of stuff? I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Me and you've talked several times before. There's a couple of things I'd like to point out here, but we've talked several times before that this epic stuff that we do, it's not for everybody, but and the benefit with it catches people's attention. But it's the daily stuff that resonates. I truly find that me out here mowing around my pond or using a chainsaw or, replacing the floor in a house or wiring a house, just doing roofing jobs, fixing plumbing on the door. Just that's the stuff that resonates because that's the daily stuff that most of us do and can do and was taken away from a lot of us when first, so we thought was taken away when we lose our eyesight or whatever. But um, but it's someone's Mount Everest or someone's lava falls might simply be learning how to sew again, learning how to garden again, learning how to just, and that's fine. That's awesome. But that's what we try to propel people to do is just get up and move and live. And it's
No, I agree. Can you, you know, we can talk, of course, about inspirational things and everything in life, inspires people differently or drives them to do something, motivates them, encourages them, whatever words you want to use or terms. I think talking sometimes, though, about challenges in a certain way affects people differently. They look at things from different perspectives because of their life and their journey. Where I'm going with this is maybe you can talk about a challenging experience that you've had in whether it's kayaking or climbing. That was definitely hard for you, but it taught you something. I mean, is there anything that you can think of that you would mention or like to share that changed you, that maybe helped you be even a better explorer and a better adaptive adventurer, or
um,
someone that's just something that people could also maybe think about themselves and might help them in their life.
wow.
And if not,
It's just I'll not forget. One thing that impacted me. I was up doing an event in Chicago, Illinois, and there's this young man that was in a wheelchair, and him and his little wife, and he had a speech board sitting there on his lap, and he was typing away on his speech board, and it quit. It quit working, and he got so upset because we were having a good conversation, and that moment, it was so hard for me to stay composed. And literally, that's probably the only time that I had to personally step aside a little bit, compose myself to not go into tears at that moment. I mean, there's been many, many times I went back to a hotel room or back to wherever and I cried like a baby thinking about what someone's going through. And, but I felt like I had to be on. But that moment with him and his wife struck me so hard to think, Lonnie, just stay calm and just be real. And I think that drove home to me more so there, that just always try to be real and try to be genuine. As you well know, at times when we go to events, it's like you're on, you got to be on, doing our thing. But yet being on, you still have to be real. You have to be genuine. And, to them, I just had this, I remember getting back to him and naturally he could hear what I was saying. He just couldn't talk. I was just, hey man, I'll be here until we figure out how me and you can continue to talk. Well, and getting him to calm down and I just, I just hurt so bad, and I hurt for him so bad, and that, and we were doing nothing more than talking, doing little small events, but yet the impact that our conversation had, and I think that was the other thing. It makes me realize is our conversations at these events tend to be the most important part of the event, not so much climbing this, climbing that, kayaking this, kayaking that. It's, it's the conversations afterwards, and but it's always just cute. Yeah, am I making sense, man? I don't know.
No, yeah. Well, that's what bringing up community. I would say it is a lot about the conversation, about the mentorship, about I think about what is exchanged in the sense of it could be techniques, and it could be techniques about doing something at home. We're about to go climb a 14er in the Colorado Rockies, but guys, while we're packing up our bags and we're at the lodge, we're talking about how to use a microwave or an oven or or stovetop or walk and check something in a certain kind of unfamiliar space or location, and I think it all translates, and everything in life can kind of is relative sometimes, or you can relate things to other things, and I think that's what I'm hearing you say. I definitely relate.
How long did it take you to get me to get an iPhone, get engaged with technology?
When I lost my sight.
Yeah, after a lot, I remember you being the driving force to me getting an iPhone and as a matter of fact, you sent me the first iPhone before I was issued one, because I didn't want to get issued one until I learned.
I remember, I deployed to Iraq in 2007, and then that year the iPhone became a real thing to the world for the first time. I was a sighted person. I had not lost my eyesight or vision. And I was one of the first people in my platoon in the Army to have one. I remember sitting, in the barracks with 30, 40 other guys. And they're like, you're crazy, Steve. No one's going to buy that expensive phone. And I'm like, you just wait. You don't understand. This kind of phone, this type of smartphone is going to change the world. And of course it has. I mean, whether it's a Samsung or iPhone or whatever, but the ecosystem, the app store. And then I went, and deployed, and I lost my sight in 2008, the very next year. And in 2009 or 10, I can't recall now, Apple made an announcement about the iPhone 3GS. It was 2009 or 10. And they decided to put the screen reader voiceover on the iPhone. And so I knew how to use an iPhone when I was sighted, but I was like, man, this is interesting. I wonder what it's going to be like to use it blind, because it's there's no tactile surface to it. It's just smooth, a smooth face. And I got it, and I knew immediately that it was going to be something people were going to love and want. But when I showed it to blind people, they hated it. They hated it because they couldn't feel anything. And I was like, no, you don't understand the gestures. You wait. And of course, the technology was refined and improved, and things have changed. And it's remarkable how it's allowed us to communicate it. And you just mentioning it's such a big tool for finding answers. When you lose your eyesight, you have no training. You have no one usually in your family or anybody around you knows how to help you. They don't know much about blindness. They just close their eyes and they automatically think, oh man, you can't do anything. Really, I think that's what people think sometimes. But when you get tools like this that open up your ability to communicate or search the world through the internet to find expedition guide companies, or to communicate on forums, it gives you the ability to connect with people. Yeah. And it's funny, this podcast that I just started really is pretty new, is called Endeavor to Connect, to try hard to connect, to try hard to connect people to resources and to give them, hope or some sort of platform to share their story, or us to maybe, speak about these things, and make people more aware of what is possible. Yeah.
I think about that iPhone to me, just bringing that back up real quick. I've been blind 28 years. I was 14 years prior to the iPhone, 14 years after. Massive difference in the connectivity to the world, with
yeah,
and through the adaptive adventure sports too as well. But yeah, it's just
well,
crazy.
I remember you were very proud of remembering phone numbers. You were proud of remembering numbers and working with Darlene or someone to help out with, make a call. And I was like, Lonnie, well, here's the phone you can use, that can help you, do whatever you want, and I just knew it was going to be the future, and look where it's taken everybody. I remember using that phone for the very first time in the Himalayas, climbing near Mount Everest on an expedition I was on. I think I was probably the first blind person using an iPhone with voiceover on it up that valley, the Khumbu Valley, making calls back from the tea houses and stuff back in 2010. And I was just pumped, and wanted to rebuild my life. And so, and I've met so many great people, speaking of community, meeting you and many of the other people, since the loss of my eyesight has been very meaningful. And I wouldn't change that. I think you speak on this sometimes.
Yeah, well, you heard me say numerous times. I think what you're saying is, I could see tomorrow in a heartbeat. If I could go back and change it, not a chance. Not a chance. And because of the impact, because of the things, and how could you take away the benefits that it's, and me and you can both say this humbly, how can we take away the benefits of things we've done from society just because we were given an opportunity? And that wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be right to take that away. Your nonprofit, is giving so many people an opportunity to do things they didn't think they could, or to live a life they didn't think they could live. How could you ever take that away? We wouldn't want to do that. But another point I want to bring up with all that, though, is I think it's important, and it's cool that me and you've done so many things together. One person going out here. That's one thing about all this Explorers Grand Slam that is disappointing in a way. If it wasn't so extremely expensive, I would rather have someone with me on everything that we've done. because I think one person's an anomaly, two people or more is a statement. And, when, like, quite frankly, I blame you a lot for the mountaineering. You're the one that got me into the mountaineering aspect of that program. But, and, you're when you asked me to go climb Aconcagua with you in South America, then we get the guy sticking his head in the tent, Michael sticking his head in the tent. And then I get asked, that's what pushed me on this path, if you will, to complete this now. But it just happened. But, to your point now, through this adaptive sports, and I met you, and let's just go through just a very, very, very small portion of the list of the Danny Wallaces, the Ken Horns, the Zach Tidwells, the Marlene Davis Lilly, Shantina Gibson, and I should quit naming names because I'm going to leave someone out and into, but the network that has been created through this, if we could somehow pull it all together and display it at one point, it's incredible. And to your point is, look, through adaptive sports started, look where it has taken you and Zach and so many of the younger guys and gals to technology levels that you guys do. It's insane. And
no, it's great. It is great to have met the people that we've met. And I know I really wanted to do the mountaineering with you and Aaron, Hale.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That was the original goal.
Beast. That was the original goal.
I've learned along the way, though, that these kinds of epic expeditions that are incorporated, like the Grand Slam and the Seven Summits, and I want to do them. I do, deep down, but I have evolved and changed, as a person, and I've proven to myself a long, long time ago, probably in the first year that I started doing things, 2009, that I already know that I have it in me to live life hard and to do great things. But I'm happy that you are pursuing it. That's why it's like come full circle for me. I wanted to inspire people myself. And I feel like I know that we both inspire each other, drive each other. And it's the same for a lot of other people that we will probably never meet. But there are not a lot of people that want to do these kinds of epic things. And maybe we'll never be able to do it because of, the money or whatever, or the drive. I mean, there's a whole nother side of it, we won't talk about it in this episode, but, the whole bureaucracy of raising money and trying to build the right kinds of teams or to be part of teams just to get something accomplished. Because, it's challenging, just like serving in the military in a combat zone with people that, a unit that is put together. You have to make it work, sometimes. And I think it challenges all parts of the mind and body. And I'm just happy to have the ability to support you in some way. I know you're doing a lot of work yourself to make it happen, but it is cool to have another take on it. So Lonnie, I'll let you say, I just want to, kind of end it here very soon, but, you can say whatever you want. But, I think the last question is like, do you have any advice for people who are dreaming and scheming or pondering this kind of, these kinds of pursuits, who might have a disability of some sort? What would you say? I know it's probably a hard question to answer, but is there any kind of advice you'd give someone?
Just take another step. Just take another step. Just take another step. And, in order to make your dream come true, you have to do something. A gentleman made a comment, is a bilateral amputee, Navy Navy veteran, that said, you can't sit around and wait on silver linings. You have to help create them. And that's so true. A dream is going to remain a dream unless you do something to turn it into reality. You can't just sit around and just wait for that dream to come true. You have to do something to try to make that dream come true. And I think that if you truly get out here and just keep pursuing, you're going to find out that a lot of your dreams are going to come true. Might not be your ultimate dream, whatever. My ultimate dream is to be on Dancing with the Stars. It truly has been for a long,
I
long,
know, I
long
know.
time. And I don't know that that'll ever come true. I don't know how to, I've got to become a star first, and maybe doing some of the stuff that'll create that opportunity. But if it comes about, it's going to be because I was out here trying to do things and got somebody, I don't know.
You kept taking those steps forward.
Take a step. Yeah.
I think that's what you're trying to say. Just keep hacking away.
Whether it's forwards, backwards, sideways, wherever it is. It's just, to your point, moving is living. That's what it is. Taking that step, moving is living. And it's not going to happen if you just sit around and exist.
Well, thank you, Lonnie, for sharing your incredible journey. I think, when you have great determination and the drive to accomplish something and support, anything is possible. And we just appreciate you sharing a little bit of your story and some comments on my questions.
Yeah, well, thank you. Like I said, I appreciate the platform, and as you've said it earlier. When we truly do lean on each other throughout our lives, and I'm just so thankful that I have you and some of these other guys and gals out here to lean on, and just help push me and drive me whenever the challenges seem a little overwhelming. You're like, oh, come on, man, and I appreciate that and have immense respect for you guys and for the sacrifices you made to give me the opportunity to do this through your services. And it's
well, thank you, Lonnie.
Yeah,
for the kind words.
Yeah,
take care.
Take care, buddy.